Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday night. You're riding with the Road Crew. This is the Token and Hobbs Show, Road to Liberty podcast on the Think Liberty Network. Welcome, everybody. We are coming to you live. Welcome. What's up, buddy? You had a good day today?
Kind of. Really long day.
Yeah, as good as any day can be in Quarantineville that we seem to find ourselves in. But you know what? Life has to go on. We got to do our thing. We got to come here and talk to you about liberty. Speaking of which, Nebraska's primaries today. I wonder who's going to win.
Well, I know that I was uncontested, so I definitely won. I'm talking like Saddam Hussein levels of vote percentages here. I won with 100%.
Nice. Our good friend Mercedes here. She was running for possession. She got 24% of her vote. Mercedes, you're listening. Tell us how much a percentage you got so we can share it here, because that shit's impressive. Libertarians need to back each other up.
I think it was like 23.08 or something like that.
Something like that. I am saying I'm hoping for there was exactly one. There were two libertarians on my ballot today. There was the presidential race. I voted for Jacob Hornberger, and then there was Gene Sidek. Our what position he's not the treasurer anymore.
Mm-mm.
I forget what he is now, but he was the only other libertarian on the ballot, so I gave him a vote. So If you're listening, Gene, you had my vote. And it's kind of funny because two of the candidates that were on the ballot aren't even running anymore. And two of the front runners aren't on the ballot. Such is life in the Libertarian Party. Very, very fine stuff. And I would imagine Joe Biden probably won the Democratic primary. I think he's somewhere around 70% right now. So big shocker there. I'm sure all of us were expecting something crazy to happen. But nope. Seeing that little man, Bernie Sanders, he manages to pull out the victory. Shocker, I know.
Yeah, another shocker. I checked the website a few minutes before we got on here, and surprisingly, Bill Weld pulled 11% of the GOP votes here in Nebraska for primary.
Bill Weld, he got 11%?
11, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I think it might be just some Democrats and independents who registered Republican at the last minute to try and throw a monkey wrench into things, but you never know. The old MAGA train might be putting the brakes on for some folks here in Nebraska.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how that works. But I mean, so let's talk a little bit about what's been going on in the world right now. There's a whole bunch of nonsense going on in the world. Of course, we're all very well of the Ahmaud Arbery shooting, which went down in Georgia last month. Last month, and only now has it gotten national attention because that video just came out. And I'm sure we're not going to dwell too much on this because this has been in the news all week. Everyone has shared their thoughts. We've shared our thoughts on the page.
I haven't. I haven't really even been following it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about it. This guy is run. Here's the thing. I've seen a lot of people trying to justify this, right? Oh, he went after their gun. Oh, they had caught somebody on camera previous nights breaking and entering. Oh, he went into a construction site. Guys, stop.
Yeah.
Really, you gotta stop this. There's no justifying what happened here, right? Well, here's the thing. I don't know that it was racially motivated. I don't know that, right? There's a lot of people making the assumption that it was, and it may very well have been. It very well may have been that they made the assumption that he was dangerous because he was black. I don't know, right? I'm not going to speculate that that's what it was. I'm just going to say it could be the reason for it, right? But there's no justifying what happened here. I mean, here's the thing. He went into a construction site. So what? Doesn't matter. You can see him on the video. He didn't take anything. He didn't steal anything. And you might say, oh, he may have been scoping it out for later. He'd come back. Okay, yeah, maybe. Or maybe he just went into a construction site to look around. Guess who else has done that during the course of their lives? Me.
Yep.
I used to do it all the time. Right? I'd see a new house going up in my neighborhood and be like, ooh, I'm going to go in there and see what's up.
Yep. It happens. And
no one ever shot me for it.
Yeah, I laid out, in the group chat my thoughts on it. I don't know all the facts. Like you said, it probably or might not be racially motivated. It might be. We don't know. The older of the two guys that did the shooting was a former cop, and I've read that he may have had an on-duty run-in with this gentleman before, or he may have worked at the same department that he had been booked at before, so he might have had recognition of who he was. Like I said in the voice chat, you got one narrative that's saying a poor, innocent guy who is guilty of nothing more than jogging while black was gunned down by two evil racist rednecks, and the other narrative is that a hardened criminal with a rap sheet as long as your arm was casing a joint for a future burglary and was stopped by two concerned citizens when tensions escalated and he tragically lost his life. My thought on it is the truth is probably somewhere in the middle and a little bit of both. The guy honestly probably was casing the joint and for a future robbery, and the other two guys probably recognized him and were just a couple of trigger happy hicks that decided to go full vigilante, and things went sideways. Both can be true. They're not mutually exclusive. Unfortunately, the court of public opinion has already deemed the two guys, McMaster or McMichaels or whatever their name is, has already deemed them guilty as charged. The actual courts, depending on what evidence come out, McMichaels probably going to acquit the guys, and then we're going to see a whole bunch more Ferguson-style bullshit that helps nobody.
See, I don't think these guys get acquitted at all. I don't, because you watch the video, they run him down, they cut him off with the truck. He tries to go around them, they cut him off again, get out of the truck, and that's when he charges at him. And I'm looking at that video, I'm like, I don't blame him at all for that. Right? If someone did that to me, I would interpret that as an imminent threat to my life. Right? If I'm running down the road and some guy cuts me off in their truck, I go around them, they cut me off again and get out with guns, I'm thinking they're going to kill me, right? And at that point, you got two options. One, you can flee, or two, you can fight, right? Those are your two options. You flee, you're not going to outrun a gun. You can very well die in that situation. If you attack, at least you have an opportunity to survive that situation, and that's what he decided to do. And you know, that's not necessarily the bad call, because he got close enough to wrestle with the guy over the gun, right? He got close enough to do that, so not necessarily the wrong call. Like, if I'm thinking some guy is an imminent threat to my life, and I don't have a weapon on my own, I'm going to defend myself with whatever means necessary, right? And here's the thing. They're the ones that initiated the conflict. They're the ones that initiate that situation. They are the ones, 100%, who are at fault here, right? That death is on them. I don't see how a jury can look at that and come away and simply acquit them, unless there's some crazy information that we're not aware of. But nothing I've seen, none of the so-called evidence that I keep seeing people put out there to justify this is anywhere close to justifying it at all, right? Like, you have some people have shown some nighttime footage from other houses in the area. I can't even tell if it's the same guy. It's so blurry. They say, oh, look, here's a young black man on people's porches at night. I can't tell that it's him. You can't tell that. You're just assuming that it's the same guy because you want it to be, or he was wearing boots or cargo shorts or whatever. I don't care. That doesn't make any difference to me. Oh, he went into a construction site. Again, I don't care. I don't care at all. Like, he didn't steal anything, and they don't even he didn't steal anything. And if he had stolen something, it would have been on him at that time. Well, why did they even have to confront him in the first place? They called the police. All they had to do is maintain eye contact on the guy. Why they need to pull in front of him and pull out their guns? The reason, of course, for that is because dude's a foreign police officer, right? Mm-hmm. And as a foreign police officer, he thinks that his actions are above reproach, can't be questioned, and local prosecutors are simply going to drop any charges and not pursue the matter, which is exactly what happened for an entire month until this video finally came out. So what we have here is local prosecutors deciding not to prosecute a case because they're buddy-buddy with the individual.
Yeah, like I said, there's the possibility that there is no good guy in all of this. We've got a guy who's got a record of like shoplifting and burglary, and we've got, like I said, a couple of possibly trigger-happy hicks who had vigilantism on the brain and decided that they were going to be a hero, and things just went sideways. It's tragic. It happens. Like I said, it's just stupid shit that stupid people do, and things escalated to a deadly situation, and.
Okay, I gotta take issue to this. Michael says, when you try and grab a gun, you can be legally killed. Okay, see, here's the problem with this, is you're completely ignoring the entire context surrounding that and pretending like this guy just out of nowhere went up to a guy and tried to steal a gun. That's not what happened, right? What happened is these two dudes presented themselves as an imminent deadly threat to this guy, and he responded in probably the only way he could, right? He could either sit there and take whatever they had in mind for him. He could run away, or he could attempt to wrestle the gun out of the guy's hands, which is not an irrational response when you consider what these guys were doing. All right. So no, you cannot ignore the context in which these actions took place. And the context in which these actions took place is these two guys presented it as an imminent deadly threat to his life, and he took action to mitigate that threat, right? Like, if this were a police officer in uniform and a couple guys, think about this situation. Dude is a police officer. He's jogging down the street, and a couple dudes with guns run him down and jump out of their trucks with guns. And he tries to wrestle a gun out of the hand and is shot. Do you think that the shooters would get any sympathy in that situation at all? No, I don't think so. No. I don't think at all. I think if the guy who was shot was an off-duty police officer, exact same situation, there'd be no sympathy at all for the shooters. None at all, right? And the district attorney would be foaming at the mouth to prosecute that case, right? These guys would be put away for life. They'd be on death row by the time this was all over, right? That's just, but the shooter was a former cop. And that makes all the difference in this situation. All the difference, right?
Yep. No, I'm going to reserve judgment for now. I can speculate. I've already laid out my opinions on it. There's just too much speculation and too many fiery, passionate. This is Michael Brown. This is Trayvon Martin. This is all of this crap that everybody has. They're fiery, passionate. One side is good, the other side is bad arguments, and they go back and forth for a while. And then in the end, it comes out that the truth is somewhere in the middle, that everybody was acting like an asshole. People burn down a bunch of neighborhoods and loot a bunch of stores, and then everybody looks like a dumbass. So I'm just gonna let it lie where it is right now.
All right. Well, I will say this though. This video makes it a lot more clear than those other. Because I'm with you on those other cases, like the Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin. A lot of these other cases that we talked about, not anywhere close. And in fact, a lot of those other cases, the actual story turned out to be completely opposite of what the narrative was. But in this case, we have video, and that makes a lot of the difference. I want to take you to another story. That's kind of the same kind of story, but not really. This is from New Hanover, North Carolina. The story goes that a group of individuals led by a off-duty sheriff deputy who was working at a correctional facility at the time and went in uniform. He led a posse into a neighborhood and confronted a black family at their house at night. One had, I think it was an AR-style rifle, and another had a shotgun, and they were with a posse of individuals. What they were doing is they were looking for an individual, right? There was a missing girl, and they suspected a teenager of kidnapping her. Now, the problem is that they went up to the wrong house. They didn't get the house correct. And not only that, but the individual they were looking for hadn't lived in the neighborhood in over a month. So they got all kinds of facts wrong about the situation. So they went up to this house, this J.T. Kita, this sheriff's deputy, with his armed posse, and they went up to this house where his mother and son lived. So they went up to the front door. They started asking a bunch of questions, and the owner of the house says, "You have to leave." And she tries to close the door, and the dude puts his foot in the door and starts demanding entry. And the only reason that this didn't escalate any further is because, actual police were called to the scene and were able to break up the situation. So here we have another situation where some guys decided to do some vigilante justice. And then justice in air quotes here, because there's no justice here at all. It's just some guys taking it upon themselves to search for a missing girl and not even getting the house right and not even getting the individual right, and then demanding entry into this random family's home, right? And putting their foot in the door and and terrorizing them with a shotgun and a rifle. Now, I don't know about you, man, but this is the kind of situation people get shot for. You go up to people's houses and start demanding entry to their homes. Yeah, you know what? If they had been shot for that, it would have been perfectly justified. Because this guy had no business being there. He had no warrant to be there. He's just some jackass who didn't take his uniform off, decided to throw around his so-called authority and terrorize some people. Yeah, he was a jackass. The good thing about this situation is the individuals did get arrested and they did get charged for it. So it didn't take a month in this situation.
Yeah, and another thing that's about it is that these people, they went up, they got the wrong house. Here's
another comment from Michael. It says the actual police were there. I read. No, they were called to the scene.
Yeah.
Right. They weren't there. Right. This off-duty police deputy had no official business being there. He didn't have a search warrant. He wasn't executing his duties. In fact, he got arrested for exactly that. I think I wrote down the exact charge he was written with. He was charged with forceful trespass, breaking and entering, and willful failure to discharge duties. So, now, you say cops were there. That not him. He was charged with willful failure to conduct his duties. Right? The police were called on him because he was breaking the law.
Yeah, that is this whole thing. I had a point that I wanted to make. They were at the wrong house. The person that they were looking for wasn't there anymore. If this had been the police, I mean, we hear stories all the time of police going on no-knock warrants to kick in somebody's door, getting the wrong house, and shooting somebody or shooting someone's dog. I mean, it's so common. It's a comical meme at this point. about cops killing people's dogs during no-knock warrants and stuff. At least nobody got hurt on on this one. So the vigilantes in this case are actually doing a little bit better job than the vigilantes are doing a better job than the actual cops.
See, that's the thing. There is a police connection in both these cases, right? It doesn't matter whether they're on duty or off duty. These people have big heads. They think that their authority goes beyond what it does, right? They think that they can run down a guy jogging down the street and cut him off and do a citizen's arrest, and then this other group thinks that they can barge into these people's house, demand entry because of I don't know, they had a hunch, some nonsense like that. I don't know, but they got charged with the crime. Good. They deserve to be charged with crime because that is some absolute nonsense. Because just think, some dudes do that to you in the middle, and this was in the middle of the night, right? This isn't in daylight, right? It's not noon. It's the middle of the night. And this group of armed dudes is on your porch demanding that you let them in. Man, it's boob time, man. That's boob time right there. And this guy's in uniform. And he's in a corrections uniform, because so you know there's no mistaking him for actual conducting police duties. He's in a corrections uniform. When's the last time a corrections officer went to your house and started trying to act like a cop? Freaking retarded people. So that's another case that happened over the week. Not very good, but what are you gonna do about it? And we're gonna have to see where this case out of Georgia goes. I don't know how it's gonna turn out. Maybe there's some more evidence that we haven't seen yet that'll change the whole thing. I'm open to that. But from where I'm sitting right now, from what I'm looking at, guys look guilty at sin. All right, so let's move on to another topic. I wanted to talk about this because it's kind of hilarious. Because you guys all know how Chris Cuomo over in New York, he's been lauded as like the savior, like America's governor, right? This guy is the hero of coronavirus. He's gonna save us all. This guy's like the most amazing dude ever.
God help us if he's America's governor.
Oh God! Now, do you remember weeks ago when he started calling on nurses and doctors and emergency workers all across the country to come to New York and help them fight the virus? Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you want to know how Cuomo decides to repay the valiant efforts of these emergency workers who traveled all the way to New York to help them out? And you want to know how he's going to repay them?
Fuck you, pay me.
Exactly. They all have to pay income taxes in New York now.
Oh my God!
Oh man, you can't. It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. All these doctors, all these nurses, they traveled from across the country to answer Cuomo's call, right?
Yep.
And when they get there, they find out that if you work in New York for 2 weeks, 14 days, you then have to pay income taxes in New York. And he is not going to waive that. I'm going to read you right now from an article. It goes, quote, healthcare workers that came to New York to help fight the coronavirus pandemic at its epicenter will have to pay state income taxes, according to the governor. He addressed the issue Tuesday at a news conference. Quote, we are not in a position to provide any subsidies right now because we have a $13 billion deficit, Governor Cuomo said. Oh, did I call him Chris Cuomo earlier?
Yeah,
Andrew
that's
Cuomo.
That's Fredo.
I get these retards mixed up. I'm sorry. No, it's very easy to get them mixed up. Anyway, quote, so there's a lot of good things I'd like to do. And if we get federal funding, we can do. But it would be irresponsible of me to sit here looking at a $13 billion deficit and say I'm going to spend more money when I can't even pay essential workers. I feel the need to point this out. Point this out to Chris Cuomo. Telling someone that they... Did I do it again?
Yep.
Telling somebody that they don't have to pay income taxes in your state, that's not a subsidy. You are not subsidizing them.
Yeah.
You are not spending money by telling somebody, hey, you don't have to pay income taxes here because you came here to help us.
You know,
and because of that act of generosity, I'm going to waive the income taxes that you otherwise have to pay in the state.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because that goes back to a very, very common theme amongst people like Cuomo and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, because you remember when Trump first became president and he signed those big tax cuts into law. The number one rhetorical thing that you always heard these lefty closet communists, neo-Bolsheviks says, oh, he's Donald Trump, he's out there looting the treasury. It's like, no, you idiot. He's not taking money from the treasury and giving it to people. He's letting people not be stolen from by the government a little bit less. And that's exactly what having the income taxes in New York being waived would have been like. No, he's not subsidizing you. He's just stealing from you a little less.
Because here's the thing. These are people who wouldn't otherwise be paying income taxes in your state anyway. They don't live in New York. They're not from New York. They're from around the country. So you're not even expecting those taxes anyway. So you're going to sit here and say, oh, we have a $13 billion deficit. Yeah, whose fault is that?
Right. And that's
who did that?
That's exactly
it wasn't them.
That's exactly why I think they're starting to cook the books for the coronavirus deaths in New York too. They've spent themselves into such an inescapable hole finance-wise that they think New York City has something like 45% of all the coronavirus deaths in the country right now. All of them, 45% in New York City.
It's all in New York City.
And so I think that what they're thinking is, it's like, oh God, if we make it out to be like, the Black Death 2.0 is taking place in New York, maybe we'll get some of that sweet, sweet federal bailout money. It's like, nah, I don't think so. And the other thing that I think is hilarious is when this whole thing kicked off, and we haven't talked about this, and I've only seen it on a couple like obscure like right-wing websites, is when this whole thing kicked off, Franklin Graham, the televangelist guy, he volunteered to set up a mobile field hospital in Central Park using his nonprofit called Samaritan's Purse. And when they set up the field hospital, the LGBT community in New York said, no, get this bigot out of here. We don't want his help. And so he's just like, all right, if I'm not wanted here, I'll take my field hospital somewhere else. And now he's laughing all the way to the bank. He's just like, hey, if we would have sent up, we would have got fleeced on taxes. So I guess we come out on top of this after all.
I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's like he tricked people into the state to fleece them on taxes. Because he sent out the call for aid. New York calls for aid. They lit the beacons of New York, and people swarmed into the state to help out with the coronavirus. I mean, all these field hospitals they set up went unused. The hospital ship they sent to New York went unused. The hospitals never got overwhelmed, but they tricked all these doctors to going into the states, so now they can charge them for taxes. It's like, what planet do you live on, dude? And you said that we have a $13 billion deficit. Yeah, dude, you're going to have to eat that. It's not their fault. It's not their state.
Right?
It's not their deficit. It's yours. It's your deficit. It's your taxpayers. Why are you having these people from other states who are here only to help you? Why are you having them pay your deficits? Jesus Christ, it makes no sense. It makes no rational sense at all. This guy is just fleecing them for money. That's all this is. That's all it is. It's a naked money grab. That's all this is. It's absolutely infuriating that a guy would actually call for aid from nurses and doctors, people he's describing as heroes, and then fleece them. And then try to play victim. Oh, I can't pay them money. We have a big deficit. As though he were not responsible for that deficit.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But, New York is never going to miss an opportunity to squeeze a little bit more blood from that stone that is their constituents.
And here's the thing about it: he's using this. He's using this to as he's playing the violin. Oh, woe is us! We really need federal aid. We really need the federal government to come here and bail us out. Like, you mean to tell me that this $13 billion deficit, that's all because of coronavirus? Is that what you're telling me? Is that the case you're making? Or here's the alternative. You've been financially irresponsible for years. You've run deficits for years, right? You've spent more money than you've taken in for years and years and years on end. And now you see an opportunity to guilt trip the government into bailing out your bad decisions. Like, I could see, right? The case that they might make. Oh, we had to spend all this money on ventilators. We should get some of that back. Or if the federal government had shut down New York's economy, we were like, "Oh, they shut down our economy. Now we have no tax income. We should see some compensation." But no, that's not what happened. No, they shut down their economy. Cuomo shut down New York's economy, and now they have no tax revenue. Right? And here's the thing. He has no sympathy for the average New Yorkers who don't have any income and have lost their jobs because of this. No sympathy for them. Right? He's going out there saying, "Oh, economic hardships, that's not their life though. They're still alive. I've kept them alive with my lockdown, so you don't have to worry about economic hardships. That's not that bad."
Was it him or was it de Blasio? I forget, one of those two assholes. They're basically interchangeable. De Blasio is the mayor of New York City, and one of those two assholes, somebody was out there saying, like, what do we do? Our businesses are being shut down. We're losing our jobs. And he's like, "Oh, why don't you just go out and get an essential worker job?"
Yeah, it was Cuomo.
Yeah,
it's like Cuomo, fucking asshole.
Yeah, let me just go out to the essential job orchard and pluck one off the tree real quick. As if it's that easy.
Yeah, and he has no sympathy at all, none at all, for New Yorkers who have lost their job. And here's the thing: this virus in New York is only bad in New York City, but he locked down the whole state anyway, right?
New York State is a big state.
Yeah,
geographically,
it is. It's a huge state, and upstate New York is not having a big deal with COVID-19, but upstate New York's just fine. But because New York City is having a rough time, and you got to lock down the whole state. And then again, he has no sympathy at all for the finances of these people, right? No sympathy at all, none for them. But when it comes to his $13 billion deficit, oh, the government's got to bail me out. They got to give us money.
Yep.
Shut up.
That's if there's any state besides California that needs to be split, as much of like a rural versus city divide, California, split it into at least two. Illinois, just cut Cook County out and make it its own little fiefdom. And New York State, upstate New York, and the city, so.
Carl says Iowa runs a $3 billion yearly budget. It's amazing. Like, New York's deficit is $10 billion more than Iowa's entire budget
for the year.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing, right? And Cuomo can. I mean, how many doctors are we talking about? A few hundred, maybe, right? And how long have they been there? Like a couple of months at most, right? You're telling me that you can't part with the income taxes of a few hundred doctors and nurses who have been there for 2 months? You can't do away with that? A few $1,000s at most?
blood
It's
from a
not
stone.
millions we're talking about. Here's a few $1,000s.
Yeah, it's crazy. A buddy of mine, I think I told you about it. He was actually uh, in the consideration of being taken up, or not taken up, but going up to New York and volunteering because he was a mortuary affairs specialist. And I guess they needed people to process bodies and stuff. And he told me, he was like, yeah, man, after, taxes and everything, I should be making like $100,000 over the next few months. And I thought that was pretty fucking sweet. And fortunately / unfortunately, he didn't get to go up there and do that. And so I got to call him one of these days and be like, hey, they were going to take it out your butt for that, for those taxes. Probably a good thing you didn't go up there.
I mean, he probably would have still come out ahead, but at least now none of his labor goes to that commie Cuomo.
Yeah, that is true.
Right? At least none of it goes there, because my God, how you can't even accuse the guy of being a Scrooge, because he spends willy-nilly as much as you want. He has no care for how much he spends.
The difference between a Scrooge and that is Cuomo has no problem spending other people's money. At least Scrooge was hoarding his own wealth that he had earned doing whatever it is that Scrooge did. He was a banker in the Charles Dickens tale, or Scrooge McDuck if you're...
I mean, he owned a series of golden swimming pools that he would charge people to swim in.
Yes.
That's how he made his money.
That's money making money right there.
I know, literally money making money.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. So yeah, Cuomo is a fucking communist. We don't like him. He's fleecing. He's fleecing the very people that everyone is talking about being massive heroes.
Yeah.
Right? You know who else is just as bad as Cuomo?
A lot of people. I mean,
people who snitch on other people. They're as bad as Cuomo. And we have a situation now out of Washington State where people are getting sweet revenge on it. It's not just Washington. I think the same thing happened in St. Louis. So let me find this article so I can read you a little bit of it. Yes, this is from Washington State. I'll read you better the article. Quote, some people who reported suspected violations of Governor Jay Inslee's stay-at-home proclamations, I like how they say proclamations because that's exactly what they are receiving death threats and harassment after their names and contact information were released by the state and made public on social media by people who obtained the information. 9 spreadsheets containing thousands of names, phone numbers, and email addresses were posted on Facebook pages Wednesday. Following the disclosure on Wednesday, a King County woman received more than 30 death threats and other harassing messages, she said. In one phone message she forwarded to the News Tribune, a male caller identifies as an associate of the business she reported for being open. He said, you have 48 hours to get the fuck out of Washington or I'm coming for you, the caller said. The King County woman, who asked to remain anonymous for fear of more harassment, doesn't believe the message came from the business. She said she was fairly high up on the list and think that's why she's getting so many messages. I'm getting bombarded, she said Friday. It's terrifying. It's really scary. It's causing me a lot of stress. In another phone message, a female caller expresses hope that this woman chokes on the virus. So glad for public discourse, the caller says. One woman stated, it never occurred to me that the governor's office would be like, yes, please tell us about these things, and then we can tell everybody you put this out so they can go hunt you down. That would have required more prominent disclaimer. That said, by the way, if you give me your name and email and phone number, we're going to be able to give that out to anyone who wants it. That was nowhere on the form. I love it. Don't you love this irony? I never thought that people would find out about this. Right. I never thought that people would learn that I was the one sending the cops to their doors to arrest them for breaking the proclamations of the governor.
Right.
Oh my
I
God.
didn't just say it. I proclaimed it. Oh my, that's so very official. Yeah,
I declare it.
The funny thing is like you said it right there in the very last few sentences of the article. I don't know about the ones in Washington State, but I do know the ones in Missouri. It was on the form that these these uh these hotline whatever they are public information and subject to FOIA requests and whatnot. So I imagine that it was probably buried in a wall of text, like all the terms of services. That's the one I'm trying to think. My brain is fried today. Like a term of
They
service on
didn't
a
read the small print.
right. You're right.
They didn't read
right.
the small print.
Now, with that being said, death threats are obviously not cool. And if it's a not a veiled death threat, then if it's like I'm gonna kick your ass or I know where you live or blah blah blah, that's a legitimate threat and that is not cool. But if you're doing something like sending, just like a sarcastic boog meme or something, or that could be taken another way. But if it's just you're sending a sarcastic message, just like hey there, Nancy Gestapo, very good of you to. Or thanks Hitler, very cool, or one of these other like funny little sarcastic memes and jokes and stuff, then then that's something different. So obviously, if we ever get to the point where we have a snitch line here in Nebraska, which I don't think we're going to have because the state never shut down, but if we ever do, or if anybody out there listening ever has a snitch line in their state, do not death threat, sarcastic memes instead. Because sarcasm and satire are the best weapons.
And if they go New York's route, send pictures of your genitals to it.
And
we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Dick pics for freedom. That's what shut down New York snitch line. Is people would send dick pics to the snitch line.
Right. Dick pics, boog memes. All fun and games and stuff like that. Don't do anything that you're going to be thrown in jail for or get a charge or a felony or something for actually threatening people, but just dicks out for COVID.
Dicks out for COVID. So here's the thing about it. I can't bring myself to feel any kind of sympathy for these people.
No.
None. Like one of the people, it was funny. I was reading like a list of the complaints that people were, and one of them that stood out to me, it was this guy, and he owned like a delivery business of some kind, right? He delivered supplies to small businesses. He reported one of his customers because all of his other customers shut down and were no longer using him, but one of them stayed open. And because they were still open, they were still ordering supplies from him. He's like, those bastards ordering supplies from me. I gotta call the snitch line and report them.
Is this like a shut up and keep your money type situation, or?
I guess.
I guess like if he thought that as long as he was staying open and making deliveries, that he was ineligible for some type of government cheese or something. Is that? I don't know.
I mean, here's the funniest thing. I mean, now that business, now all his customers know who he is.
Oh, snitches don't get riches, eh, Gavin Newsom?
No, not in Washington they don't, and I don't think in California they ever got their riches.
Oh no, that's.
Did you ever follow up on that? Like, did California ever actually reward snitches?
I don't know. I think that enough people heard him say that and just completely missed that opportunity for snitches get riches instead of snitches get rewards, and they're like, no, this guy can't even make an off the cuff rhyme. He is not to be trusted. This man is a charlatan.
I mean, he's the governor of California. Of course, he's a charlatan.
Yeah. That goes.
But yeah, I can't feel any sympathy for these guys. These guys are getting exactly what they get. Exactly. See, here's the thing. What did they think they were doing? Right? When they called a snitch line on their neighbors, right? They were sending guys with guns over to them to shut them down. And if they wouldn't comply, to put them in a cage, right? They were initiating violence against somebody. I know we don't like to think of it that way, but that's essentially what they were doing. right? And now we'll find out about it. Now their names and their contact information, all that's out there. And they're all crying because people are angry at them.
Yeah. That's a hard thing for a lot of people who are new to libertarianism to wrap their heads around, is that every time you call the cops on somebody, whether it's for shoplifting or for, running a red light or something more serious than that, you are in essence using the state to initiate potentially violence up to and including lethal force. It's
sent a SWAT team against a restaurant in Texas.
Right. Pragmatically speaking, I hope I'm using that word correctly. Like I said, my brain is fried after today. But pragmatically speaking, it's no different than if you yourself walked up and pointed a gun at them and said, "Stop what you're doing." And the only difference is that we've given the state the monopoly on the use of force. And yeah. That's just the only difference.
Yeah, and then I really can't. I've said this before. I really can't feel sympathy for them. They're getting exactly what they get, and you know what? Boo-hoo! People are angry at you. You're now social outcast. Good. Go be in your social outcast colony. We'll build an island for you in the Pacific, and you can all go live there. And I hope you've all learned your lesson. I hope everyone in this country is learning a lesson right now. Snitches get stitches. That's what happens, especially in this situation. Okay, let's one more subject I wanted to talk about. This is an article that I found in the New York Times. Let me try to pull it up and see who wrote it. Linda Hirschman. Let's see. Hirschman is the author, most recently, of Reckoning the Epic Battle Against Sexual Abuse and Harassment. All right, so let's read the title of this article. You ready for it? It's titled, "I Believe Tara Reade. I'm voting for Joe Biden anyway."
Oh, that is a big brain, galaxy brain, nuclear hot take. Just fresh. Like, that might as well be titled, "I Believe Women, but Orange Man is Worse." Or,
I mean, that's the thing about it.
No, here's the new title. "Rape is Bad, Orange Man Badder." That's the new revised title.
Oh my God, it's hilarious. She believes, it's right there in the title that Joe Biden raped a woman.
Or sexually assaulted. Sexually assaulted. Rape is something different.
Yeah,
but
he took his fingers and, that's rape. Come on, that's rape. And she believes that.
Is it really, or is it just Joe Biden practicing his impromptu what's the word I'm looking for? His amateur gynecological exam. He's just getting some practice. Just some practice.
It's a hobby of his.
Yeah, it's a hobby.
He just likes to pretend he's a gynecologist. That's what he was doing. But yeah, it's right there in the title. She believes Tara Reade. She believes Joe Biden is a rapist. She wants a rapist to be president. And this is a woman. What was the name of that book that she wrote? Reckoning the Epic Battle Against Sexual Abuse and Harassment. She wrote that book. And she's going to vote for a rapist? Oh my God, this is too good. Okay, I got to read a little bit from this article just so we can see just how juicy it is. It goes, "I believe Tara Reade. I believed Anita Hill too. Long before Miss Reade, before the reports of the rubbing and the sniffing and the pudding and the dirt and the rubbing and the sniffing. I interviewed an advisor to Miss Hill, who said she tried to warn Mr. Biden of what was happening in the Thomas hearings, how unchecked Republicans were smearing an upright woman's character." Oh, got to bring the Republicans into this.
Wasn't Anita Hill the one who tried to accuse Clarence Thomas of a bunch of crap?
That's what she's talking about here.
Yeah, and it turned out that she was full of shit.
Yeah, but no. She wasn't full of shit because believe all women.
Believe all women.
Remember?
Believe
Believe all
all
women.
women.
Yeah, how unchecked Republicans were smearing an upright woman's character. But the United States Senate was still very much a boys' club back then, the advisor told me, and there was nothing, and there was no getting through to him. What's a girl to do now? Discounting Mrs. Reed's accusation and, one after another, denigrating her corroborating witnesses, calling for endless new evidence, avowing that you hear her is nonsense. Yes, we all understand this. It's so hilarious to me whenever one of these accusations come out against Joe Biden, he always wants to say we have to listen to her. We need to hear her out. We need to hear what she has to say. You know what, Joe, if you're innocent, why do we have to hear what she has to say? Again, why if you're innocent, Joe, that makes her a damned liar. Why won't you call her a damned liar? Just come out and say it. Say she's full of shit. And if you think she's full of shit, which you must think if you're innocent, why do you think we have to listen to her again?
Well, that's why in a court case, the prosecution always goes first. I think that's how it works, because then the defense can know what the prosecution is working with and can make a strategy built around what evidence they know or think they know that the prosecution is bringing to bear. That's how it works in our country. So since Joe Biden is technically the defendant, he is playing an old lawyer's game of let the prosecution go first. That way we can construct our narrative around what they have said.
See, that's the problem,
yeah.
though. That's the problem is they've built their entire party around the idea that women are incapable of lying. That is the premise that they set for us back during the Kavanaugh hearings, that women do not lie about rape. That's the standard that they set. The standard that they set is an accusation equals guilt. And Joe Biden is denying that. At least this woman, at least Linda Hirschman, has the balls to admit the hypocrisy. I'll give her points for that at least.
All right.
She is coming out right out and saying, I have no problem voting for a rapist.
Right. I'm going to need that.
That is what she's saying.
I'm going to need the screenshot of that article because I've got an excellent meme that just popped into my head.
Oh, I can send you the actual article.
Thank you.
Here it is. For everyone in the comment section right now. There you go. There's the article. I just sent it to you. You are welcome. Okay, let's move on. So what did I leave out? Here it is. So stop playing gotcha with the female supporters of Mr. Biden or the Me Too movement, making them lie on camera or perhaps to themselves about doubting her to justify their votes. Man, this woman is coming right out and saying what we've all been saying. Yeah, they're lying to themselves. I think Elizabeth, what do you think all these potential vice presidential candidates for Biden are thinking, right? Because they were all about the Me Too thing a year ago, and now they've gone completely against that. And it's funny, like they are the ones that have to answer to this. They don't want to question senile Joe Biden.
I think that I think that all the possible vice presidential candidates are holding their tongue right now because they're like that black guy in the meme, like peeking around the tree, rubbing his hands together because he sees something and he's about to pounce on. You know,
that's Trump right now. That's Trump.
That is Trump right now.
He's gearing up.
But all these vice presidential candidates are not really defending Biden, but they're not coming after him either because the guy's got, it's bad to punch down. It's bad to punch down, but he's got enough mental stuff going on alone that he could get, 25th Amendment removed from office on day one. You know, he could come in, sit down at the Resolute desk. His whole cabinet comes in and says, 25th Amendment, you got dementia, Joe. You got to go. And then suddenly all these whoever is the vice presidential nod is going to be elevated to the position of the president. So everybody, whether it's Cuomo or Stacey Abrams or any...
It can't be Cuomo because he's already said it's going to be a woman.
Hey, did you just assume his gender?
I guess he does have nipple rings, so. I don't know. So there's a little bit more to this that I have to read. It goes, I'll take one for the team. I believe Miss Reed, and I'll vote for Miss Biden this fall. I won't say it will be easy. I have been writing on and agitating for women's equality since the feminine mystique came out in 1963. I know how supposedly liberal men abuse the sexual revolution in every imaginable way. I am unimpressed by their lip service to feminism, their Harvard degrees, and their donations to feminist causes. And yet, you're still going to vote for Joe Biden. You are unimpressed with their lip service to feminism. And yet, you are going to vote for a man that you openly acknowledge to be a rapist, a sexual assaulter, someone who attacks women.
And little girls.
Yeah. I mean, sorry if I don't take your opinion seriously. Sorry if you become meme fodder for this. But you're nothing but a goddamn hypocrite, and nothing you say holds any water whatsoever. My God, author of the epic battle against sexual abuse and harassment. Yeah, nothing says battling sexual abuse and harassment like putting a rapist in the most powerful position on planet Earth. Yep. Good job, right? Good job. What's that old Nietzsche quote about fighting monsters and the abyss staring back at you?
Something like that, yeah. Don't
stare.
Like
that. I think the abyss is staring right back at Democrats. Yep. Right? They've been tilting at windmills for so long that they just turn themselves into monsters.
Yep.
It's amazing. There's more evidence that Joe Biden is a rapist than Brett Kavanaugh was, but they're falling over themselves trying to defend him. And this one Democrat who is not falling over herself to defend Biden openly acknowledges that he's a rapist and decides to vote for him anyway. Yeah, good luck with that. Good job with your feminist credibility there. All very nice stuff.
Stunning and brave.
Stunning and brave. You don't have your honkler horn
right now? No, I was in such a hurry I forgot to grab it out of the... Hang on. We'll get a couple of toots in here. Where you at, you son of a bitch? I got it. There we go. Stunning and brave.
There we go. Stunning and brave. All right, we're going to call it a night, everybody. So remember the website, think-liberty.com. That's think-liberty.com. We just did an interview yesterday with Judge Jim Gray. He's running for president under the Libertarian Party. Very exciting stuff. I'm very excited to see what he winds up doing in the primary. We talked to Larry Sharp last week. That was an awesome conversation. If you want to see these interviews, make sure to subscribe to the Think Liberty Network on any podcast app. We're on everything. We're on YouTube too. Get on Think Liberty's YouTube channel and check it out. Remember, think-liberty.com is the website. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. I think that's it.
Yep.
Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Yep. And this Friday, we're going to be talking to Killdeer from Patriot Wave, and producer Ben is going to jump in too. We're going to have a little three-way conversation on communications. So that should be nice.
Very, very good. All right, everybody. You have a good night. Stay safe out there. Remember to stay sane, because the world's not going to do it for you. Good night, everybody.
Later.